is happening, fellow fantasy GMs. I'm JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. With our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
Well, JJ Wang, I don't know how you're going to move forward. We already talked about your favorite team. What are you going to do for the next 3 weeks hearing about all these schmucks that aren't the Texans?
So I lied. So I said last week that we were going to talk about my top 3 teams, but that's not true. So today we are actually going to probably talk about my second favorite team today.
You say the Jets. I'm quitting the podcast.
It might be. I'll hold it till I'll wait until we get to there. But yeah, so we'll say last week we talked about 3 of my top 4. You know, I think today we're probably going to be talking about 2 of them to finish out of the top 5.
I don't know if we can be friends because I think I know where this is going, and I know it's not the Commanders. So yes, this week we have the East preview, but real quickly before we get started, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on email, thefantasycouriers@gmail.com. We're on Facebook at the Fantasy Couriers, and the podcast is embedded. But you know what? I discovered they are getting rid of Facebook podcast embedding. So the simplicity of listening to the podcast, people now have to go to a podcast app pretty soon. I was like, come on, man, that stinks.
You can't watch it on Facebook anymore.
And you can't. No, it won't pop up. You can still watch us on YouTube. You can pop questions anywhere and everywhere. We'll try to answer them on the show as we are moving forward. We're getting. Dude, the rubber is about ready to hit the road. It is June. It's almost draft season. Yeah, you like that? You like that?
I didn't know why I found that funny. It was kind of funny.
We're recording on an odd, different time than usual because the weekends are kind of wonky. But we're everywhere and anywhere. iHeartRadio, iTunes, Amazon, Google, anywhere that there is a podcast. So far, I've seen us pop up, and I might have checked us out on those places to see how we sound and where we are. But we're looking good. Courier Nation is strong and growing. Just connected with one of our biggest and only fans in Delaware, and your boy from our auction league is enjoying it and had a great week as we're connecting. But without further ado, let's just jump into this. Unless there's some big news you're thinking of, Mr. Wang, that you want to share with the group. I don't have any NFL big news.
We get in this as fast as possible so it doesn't go as long as it did. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably gonna go longer this week than it did last week. But
I don't know. We only got my love, and my things aren't as terrible as big and crazy. I tried to avoid overstocking it with Dolphins, even though that's what we should talk about.
Yeah, evidently, yeah. I'm sure that's why when I looked at the sheet, I was expecting to see nothing but Dolphins, but you threw 1 or 2 in. To it, yeah. So let's start. I'm going to skip down the sheet for you. Let's start with the blah division of football. I think it would be close to the division that it's almost like it's anybody's game to a point, the NFC East. So we're looking at the New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys, Washington Commanders, and the Philadelphia Eagles. JJ Wang, when you look at this division, I mean, generally, in America's eyes, it's Dallas's division, but they haven't won a playoff game probably since the Dolphins. They're pretty terrible. I mean, it's not the 90s anymore, but they're still America's team. Are they the class of this division? I mean, it's between them and the Eagles. I think they'll probably end up coming down and splitting, and I think they'll end up with close to the same record. I'm not really. I'm not high on the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys will do what the Cowboys have done for the last 20 years. 25 years, finish 8-8 or 8-9, 9-8, and however, which somewhere.
This new 17 game thing just jacks up my head.
And they might luck into the playoffs, but I'm not expecting them to win a playoff game. But that's kind of different when it comes to fantasy, because as far as fantasy goes, I mean, I think they're kind of loaded with fantasy talent. Them and the Eagles, and then the other 2 teams, they're just fodder to beat up on, I guess.
Fair to beat up, and I think if you're looking for sleepers, the Commanders and Giants, in my opinion, I think actually mine wasn't from there, but they're the teams that you're sort of gonna sneak around and see what you can pick from the dumpster fire that might get you some points here and there.
Yeah, because I don't think there's really a great player on either of those teams that you can rely on. It's just more or less there's going to be somebody on that team that produces. It's just where can you find it?
Yeah, and once we get to the other side, the AFC East, we have a straight up number one player that we'll talk about a lot later that we really aren't going to talk about today as we go into the dive. But let's start out looking into the who is your player that you think is the player to own in the NFC East? If you had to pick one guy that you should have on your team and you suggested, who would it be?
And this was a lot harder than I thought when we said we were going to come up with this. I mean, I didn't even fill in two of the squares that you had here because it's just hard. But I'm going to go with probably I think the best player in the division, and that's CD Lamb. Coming out of college, of course, he was that guy. He hasn't quite lived up to the expectations.
Hasn't quite, he hasn't at all.
But I mean, he hasn't played he hasn't played bad. I mean, he had 1,000 yards last year, and he's also playing with Amari Cooper, who's always been, that wide receiver one. So we're talking 120 targets gone. They didn't really bring anybody in to replace him. They got Gallup, but he's injured. We got the rookie we'll talk about later. And then there's Dalton Schultz, but they're going to still throw a lot, and those targets got to go somewhere. And I think Lamb finally sees that uptick in production where he can get maybe 12 to 1,300 yards and double-digit touchdowns, and that'll make him the wide receiver one that we thought he could be.
He is the epitome. I'm trying to think of a player that comps with me to CD Lamb. He's like the hype train of all hype trains. Like, I'm trying to trade for him in the league, but a guy said, "Nah, I want to hold on to him." I was like, "Daggone, I want one share of CD just in case he does that." But he's like that super that I can't even think, like that movie that you just hear so much about that's supposed to be so good. People keep watching it, but then every time you watch it, you're like, "Okay, that was an okay movie, but why does everybody think it's the most amazing thing in the world?" And that's where, like, dude's stacked with talent. Dude should go. I mean, I would not, your stats, I would not be shocked if that happened. But based upon everything so far, I mean, he lost to Amari Cooper and they brought in a rookie. And I like Gallup a lot. If he can come back healthy, the tight end is stepping up. And they got a good tandem of running backs who, heck, we're not even going to talk about today. But for me, he's a guy that I think will be on zero of my teams unless I pull off some floozy, crazy, wild dynasty trade because he's gonna be too expensive.
Yeah, nobody wants to get rid of him because they're just waiting for it to explode. You don't want to sell low on him or sell him at all, and then that's when he comes out and pops off and ends up being that wide receiver one, and then you just wasted 2 years because you missed out on the year. But that's my guy. I think he's a runaway, the best player in the division. How about yours?
Well, I'm gonna go with, oddly enough, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but my favorite quarterback coming into the league a few years back was Jalen Hurts. I'm a professed Alabama disdain, hate Alabama. Well, actually, it's just not Alabama. I loved them before, but then Nick Saban went there, and I just was done with them.
Hate winners.
Yeah, I do. I think I do. I think I just like to punish myself. But it's Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles quarterback. Last year, he got the full year as the starter. He was good, not great, but in fantasy, you're looking at different stats almost. The dude ran for 784 yards, and that moves him up the quarterback ranking.
Did he miss a few games as well? He missed a few.
I believe so, off the top of my head. We could be totally wrong. But they're a quarterback that can run on a team that's probably going to lose, then that's who I want to have. I mean, you're probably going to give up. He's going to throw a couple more interceptions. He had 9 interceptions last year. I could see that going up. He only had 16 touchdowns, but I also see that going up because he did get a big guy in the end zone. Goddard is coming into his own. I think he'll be somewhere in that 5, 6, 7 range for a tight end, which is a good tight end to have. You got A.J. Brown coming into the system to pair with Devonta Smith. I mean, he's got 2 decent weapons. I'm not an A.J. Brown truther by any stretch of the I can't even think of what I was trying to say. But I'm not an A.J. Brown truther, but you throw a guy that can stretch the field onto your team, you're gonna be better. And and this is, I mean, he's ranked so much lower than he was last year comparative to like last year. They were talking top 6, top 7 quarterbacks, and you were disappointed some weeks. Other like I had him in a league, and some weeks you're like, dude, he balled out. Other weeks you're like, where did he go?
Yes. Yeah. So he only missed. He played 15 games. So he missed what 2 games. So and that's pretty much a whole season. But last year, like, wasn't it like something crazy? Like the first 10 games, he was like the only quarterback to be in like the top 10 or something crazy like that. So I mean, he produced. I mean, it's that's kind of hard to maintain throughout the whole year. But I think overall, with his running ability, he doesn't need to pass a lot. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the receiving weapons in Philadelphia are going to be in maybe kind of like the team we're going to talk about a little later with the Dolphins. I think the receiving options might be in a tad bit of trouble because you got 3 really good options, and Jalen Hurts and the Eagles don't throw enough to to dish out 3 really good options. So who's going to hurt? I think all 3 of them are going to hurt, and Jalen Hurts is going to succeed just because he can run and he doesn't have to throw to be that number 1 quarterback. But I mean, he's a solid QB1, I think.
If I had to pick one of those, if you had to pick one of those 3 pass catchers to be on your team,
I'd have to say Dallas Goedert just because he's the big guy down in the end zone. I mean, yeah, they're going to get catches, but AJ Brown's usually only like what a 60 to 70 catch guy anyway.
Yep.
And Devonta Smith, we like him. I like him. I'm not really sure where you stand, but you like him. He played well last year. I think he had like 800 yards. I mean, he did well for a rookie, but I think it's going to be tough for all 3 of them to eat. I mean, it's going to be hard, but Jalen Hurts, I mean, all aboard.
It's a little windy out back. I think I saw Devonta Smith just blow across my lawn.
But
yeah, I totally agree with you.
I was watching some highlights of Devonta Smith. I know highlights are crazy, and I like to watch them. But I mean, he's an impressive kid. Mm-hmm. But so is AJ Brown, and so is Dallas Goedert, and it's gonna be hard.
It's amazing, those 2 physiques. You got like big giant wrestler and little featherweight boxer, and they're both like muscle bound galore, but just a different kind of muscle. They're studs. But yep. I'm 100% with you. I think Goedert is, if I had to own one of those 3 guys, Goedert, because who is a young quarterback's best friend is still the tight end, and Goddard's coming in his own. Ertz left at the end of the year.
They played really well together towards the end of the season.
And as he runs, Goddard's getting smarter. If he's going to keep an eye on Hurts. If Hurts sweeps left, Goddard's going to come up slant left and donk right there. I mean, it's the same reason that I would say Kelsey's had success with Mahomes. When Mahomes is moving, he's a better pocket passer than Hurts by a mile. But Goddard, yeah, I guess you're right. Hurts is better than Mahomes. You heard it here. JJ Wang says Hurts is better than Mahomes. Chalk it up. But yeah, I totally agree with you. So let's it looks like we have a theme going here on our category. Basically, what we should call this is division to avoid, but we'll go with just one player to avoid, or this is team to avoid as well. And mine hurts. Mine coming from Jalen Hurts to go to this guy. This was one of my favorite, one of the guys I was really high on coming in, but boy, have injuries derailed a career. Injuries and just life in general, because if you look back, all we think of last year is Carson Wentz, game 17, imploding versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. But for the season, Carson Wentz had almost 3,600 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 94 QB rating. And that's QB rating. That's not terrible when you're looking. I mean, we're not saying Carson Wentz is top 12 ever, but we're looking at a QB2 and a super flex. I would toss that in there and that's on top of Jonathan Taylor rushing for 6 bajillion yards last year.
You're trying to avoid this guy. You're making me want to buy him here.
I know, but apparently no one likes him. He's on the Washington Commanders team, and he's on one of my teams. I need him to be good. But my aversion is new change, new scenery, new playbook, new team in 3 years. What are the Commanders? Are they trying to build a running team with 3 running backs? I mean, that's going to be at 3. I mean, you could avoid that running back committee.
Yeah,
We love Gibson,
I
but
think the Commanders are in for that top 5 pick next year. That's what I think the Commanders doing.
I
I
think
mean, like I said,
yeah,
Wilson,
he's not Russell Wilson.
whatever his name is. Like most of the years, he's solid. I mean, he's not flashy, but when he's one of those guys, if you look at the box score, you're like, oh, Carson Wentz didn't do bad. But if you watch the game, you're like, what the heck was this guy doing? But then by the time you get to the end of the year, you got yourself a top 15 quarterback. It's kind of weird. But luckily for us, we play fantasy and not real life quarterback, and Carson Wentz helps us. Like I got Carson Wentz on a team, not trying to go out there and get him anywhere else. I'm probably not going to trade him because most people feel the same way about him that I guess we do. They're not going to pay a whole lot for him. But Carson Wentz, if somebody come asking me for Carson Wentz, I think I'd want a first round pick for him because I mean he still at the end of the day he has the ability to be a top 12 quarterback, kind of like Kirk Cousins.
So you're that's a good comp. Carson Wentz could be the next Kirk Cousins.
And is that a bad thing for fantasy? I mean,
in reality, it's not. I mean, Kirk Cousins and he's like you hold your nose and you play him because I mean, Kirk Cousins. Yeah, that's a great comp. So let's keep with we're Virginia boys. I mean, in a couple of years, the Commanders could be 15 minutes from my house.
Oh, nice.
They bought a lot over there. Outside 95 near
is that the Woodbridge area?
The Woodbridge area in Virginia, yeah. And if they build there, that's 15, 20 minutes from my house, which means I'm never going to that side of the town 8 weeks of the year.
Yeah, I would never go. I don't think I will ever go to a football game. I'd much rather watch it at home.
I went to one, and my daughter got excited. So if the Dolphins are back in town, she's like, "Oh, we could go see the Dolphins first." I'm like, "Dude, TV is so much better." Like in person, it was an experience. I do want to go to the stadium in Miami one time in my life, but you miss so much that you don't see on TV, like the Red Zone channel.
Yeah, the Red Zone channel is the best. But yeah, going over to my guy, boy, we're gonna stick on the same team. This kind of hurts too because I mean I was a big fan last year. I thought it was going to be a little better, but that was also because I thought Fitzpatrick was going to be the starting quarterback. That didn't really turn down, and after that, it was kind of all downhill. Yeah, of course he did retire. That guy, I mean, honestly, I think that guy had an amazing career. 17 years, and he started for every team he played for. I mean, kudos to that guy. But my guy's Terry McLaurin. I don't think he took this, like I said, I don't think he took the step last year that we thought he was going to. And I don't think it's going to be any better. He did have 1,000 yards, but only the 5 touchdowns. I could probably see that right around the same thing, maybe that again this year. I don't see it being much better. They did bring in Jahan Dotson, another weapon. They still got Diami Brown. He didn't
save the other one for later.
Yeah, he didn't really do too much. I already forgot all about him. But yeah, I don't think you really be too much excited to own him. I mean, like a wide receiver 3, high-end wide receiver 3 at this point is where I would feel comfortable until I see something. And that makes me a little upset because didn't grow up a Commanders fan. I found myself actually liking them over the years, and I kind of found myself liking McLaurin. And of course, when I like him, he decides to not be the guy that we thought he was. Story of my life.
All right, we this was a rough week. There were people mentioning me with my love of the beard. Ryan Fitzpatrick, one of my favorite players. I think I saw in that draft class he has is he in the Aaron Rodgers draft class? Is that where he falls?
Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, I think he's in the Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe somewhere. That was 2005. I guess it was somewhere around that time.
But he in the class, let's see if I can pull it up while I'm talking, ended up having like the second he was round 7, pick 250 in the 2005 draft. So he is the second most touchdowns amongst quarterbacks. And we're talking Alex Smith, who had a couple good years there. Aaron Rodgers. Oh, Jason Campbell. I mean, it's a dumpster fire after you get past Aaron Rodgers. It's pretty terrible, which is why he's there. But
that's usually how it goes with quarterbacks. You can go back every year and probably pretty much find like these top guys. There's only one of them that's going to be good, and then the rest of them are going to be like those lower rounds guys that you just happen to come across.
One of the guys is actually on ESPN, Dan Orlovsky, It is a terrible.
Yeah,
Okay,
I listen to him a lot. I see
he's
him
really
on the
good.
radio.
He's really, really good. I take it back. Congratulations, Ryan Fitzpatrick. You should be number 2 on this list. It's terrible. Like I'm not even going to waste people's time hearing these names. But the beard did. He was a great player to have. Unfortunately, he was the stopgap guy for most teams. But when he played, I mean, I think he got the raw deal on my boys. He should have played that full year. But he was also an amazing teammate, and you always hear nothing about that. But I'll forever be a supporter of the beard, and I think that's why. I mean, that's really why we fell on our face last summer with our predictions. Like McLaurin, you have him as a wide receiver 3, you'll never get him. He's still going off wide receiver 2. Like probably, I'd say if I had to rank him, I'd still throw him 17, 18.
I would probably say that too, but I mean, he'll probably be a wide receiver too. Like I guess probably on the lower end. But I don't
snake bitten. We've been snake bitten. Like him, Gibson. They'll have to fall a lot for me to draft him this year because we were so high, and really our highness last year was based upon, amongst some things, Ryan Fitzpatrick. And when he went down, it sort of went all poo poo. So the next area is buy low player. Apparently, you don't want any of these dumpster fire players. So I'm going to throw my guy out. And he's a guy that I hated, didn't want a thing to do with last year. But when he played, he passed the eye test. He just got hurt all the time. And that's Kadarius Toney. And there was something about watching him play. He does kind of look like Tyreek Hill. If you look, I was like, oh, yeah. When he was on the field, he had a 10-catch, 189-yard game. He had a 6-catch, 78-yard game. There was a span there, but he was just hurt.
But in so he had that big game, and then that 6th game, that's when he got hurt, and he got hurt in like the first quarter.
He came in hurt. Then he had the 6th game was first, and then the big game. Yeah, that's where he went out and came back in, right?
I don't know how it was, but I
know he came back in that 3rd game, and then he was a shell of himself. He played a couple games to round out the year. He was inactive 11, 12, 13, 14, and then he came back for 1 week and he was 4 for 28. But see, he really passed the eye test. He was overdrafted by Urban Meyer. Thanks to Urban Meyer almost. Because Urban Meyer wanted him. He was overdrafted by the Giants, and I don't know. He was not a first-round receiver, but watching him play, he looked much better than I thought he would. But they also I'm like proving all my points wrong. They brought in Wendell Robinson, who is basically the same player.
You think like 5'8" though?
Their game set, I believe he's smaller. Like I didn't realize, to be honest, Toney was as tall as he was. He's 6 foot tall. But they brought him in.
And 5'8" receivers don't work out there.
There's a couple.
In the
5'8", 179 pounds.
Yeah, it's just tough for him, man.
Hey, I weigh less than him. Hot dog. It's been a good week. But they brought him in, and they're going to play the same spot. So does that mean Toney will go out wide? They'll put Kenny Galladay on the other side and have Wandell in there. Does that mean they're going to run more? I don't know. They have a sneaky little running back I like, but out of Florida State. We'll see. We'll talk about him if we ever go super, super, super deep. But I
was thinking about using that guy too.
Yeah, that'd have been funny. But he's so cheap right now because he was so hurt. If the dude plays, I mean, this is the standard for how many players?
Everybody.
If he plays and Daniel Jones is a poor man's Carson Wentz this year, I mean, as long as he doesn't have to run and fall, I could see Toney putting up a solid wide receiver late 2, early wide receiver 3. And for what you're going to get him, that would be a great stat because leagues are growing. A lot of leagues you can play more than 3 wide receivers these days. And I'd love to have him as a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I think in today's league, you gotta play more than 3, at least 3, probably more. There's just so many of these guys. You either have more wide receiver spots or more flex spots because there's just so many of these guys. I don't like looking at my roster and having like a good guy sitting on the bench. That makes me so mad. I do all this work to get all these players and I can't play them because there's just not enough spots to put them. But yeah, Toney looked good when he came in. I don't know if the team really likes him a whole lot. I know they were
trying to trade him.
I know they were trying to trade him, and now maybe that they couldn't, so now they like him. Daniel Jones, who knows? The running game, who knows? I think Tony kind of falls in line with like my deep sleeper pick, where somebody on that team's got to produce, and why not be? I don't want to call Tony like a gadget guy, but I mean, I feel like he can do multiple roles. And with Saquon Barkley, who knows what you're going to get with that? So yeah, you better hope. But yeah, Tony's okay if you can get him cheap. I mean, he's worth a shot because, like I said, when he plays, I mean, he plays well.
Yeah, I think he's a sneaky guy. Why not? For those that might not be knowing, the guy we're talking about was Sean Corbin, is a shifty little running back for the Giants. I mean, he's basically one Saquon Barkley standard injury.
I mean,
maybe playing.
All he has to do is look better than Matt Breida and Gary Brightwell.
Yeah, and in shorts, he's standing out in OTAs right now. So if you're looking deep, you got a deep roster, throw in Sean Corbin. Before I go to my next guy, just to piggyback on what you said, my favorite leagues now are the leagues where you start one quarterback, one running back, one receiver, one tight end, and super flex, and everything else is flex, because I love roster construction. That's why I changed our auction league to that, because you might say, I love running backs, and you're going to draft 8 running backs. I'll say I'll draft 3 running backs, so I've got injuries, and I'll draft all receivers because there's a ton of them. They get a ton of yards, a ton of points, especially if you get points per receptions. Give me receivers all day.
I mean, going back, I mean, it's old school, but not old school, but like last year when I quit that league that we were in, I quit that league because they wouldn't add a flex spot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not playing in the league that you can only start 2 running backs. There's so many valuable running backs. You got to have flexibility, man.
So, since you have no one and we always talk too much, we'll go to the best rookie. I think there's, in this division, the best rookie. There's some sleeper rookies, and I'll mention one here in a second. But the best rookie, I think, in everybody's book that has the most hope is Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama. Dude had 2,000-yard seasons to wrap up in the exciting Sun Belt. But he's stepping into a situation where Gallup's going to be out for a bit with his injury. He's going to be the Robin to your Batman of Dez Bryant. And I'm a Dak believer, and I think Dak can support 2 guys and a tight end with those. And he's not going to be a guy that's going to have pressure. And I think this dude could easily be one of those rare rookies that everybody's like, dude, I want to pick him up. And you can get him in a late second. He's rising up the board, but late second rookie draft. I don't see any. He's stepping into such a great situation that it's got to be Jalen Tolbert, right?
Yeah, it's all about opportunity. Well, it's got to be. There wasn't anybody else drafted in this division. I feel like was any good. I guess the only other guy was Brian Robinson, the running back that went to the Commanders. But I mean,
yeah, I like that.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I like Tolbert. I was able to get him. Like, you know how it's all about opportunity with Gallup out. The only guy he's going up against or has to fight against is James Washington.
Okay.
I think he should probably beat out James Washington, but even James Washington is going to get some run.
True.
With Gallup out. The Cowboys throw a lot. I mean, they chuck the ball all over the field. That's why I'm liking Lamb so much, because I think they're going to throw a lot. Zeke is going to be Zeke. He'll look terrible, but probably end up being, that 8th
top 6 running back last year. How was that? He was terrible.
But probably be pretty much the same thing. Pollard to get, come in and look explosive, and I think Tolbert, you'll see flashes, and I think he'll be solid. I don't know if you want to be able to rely on him too much, but I think he'll be solid.
I mean, I've also heard rumor on another note that they might let Pollard walk. So maybe that means they're just going to run the living snot out of him because they know they're getting nothing for Zeke and they paid him. So we'll see what happens. That's an interesting dynamic too as they go farther. So jumping into rookies, you said there were no other good rookies. Well, there's a rookie in this that was drafted in the AFC East. Every year in college, in the Big 12 that he played, he didn't play COVID year, he had over 1,000 yards. He ran in his freshman year for 1056, sophomore year 1,011, and his senior year 1253 with 12 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, and 13 touchdowns.
Where do you go to school?
He went to school at Oklahoma. His name is Kennedy Brooks, UDFA for the Philadelphia Eagles. I like Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders is straight. So I might be a year ahead on Kennedy Brooks, but Miles Sanders now has a backup. You got the scat back in Gainwell. So Kennedy Brooks is basically Miles Sanders' insurance.
Isn't Boston Scott still there?
Boston Scott, the bowling ball is there. So there's a crowded backfield, but we're talking deep sleeper. Kennedy Brooks could jump in there. He's a proven player. He comes in with 1,000 yards at a big school and a decent conference, not the SEC, but basically the next level is that in the ACC and the Pac. But
did Ramondre Stevenson go to Oklahoma? Is that where he went?
Who was it?
Ramondre Stevenson, was he at Oklahoma? Is that where he
was?
So I guess they played together. He ran for 1,000 yards with Ramondre Stevenson still there.
Oh, he didn't play in 2020 when Ramondre had a good year.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
So he took off for COVID.
Yeah, I don't know too much. I don't know too much about him. Like 1,000 yards each season, kind of like Isaiah Spiller. I mean, they run for all these yards and then get into the draft, and I guess that really doesn't matter in the big. Well, I'm not going to Spillers in the SEC, so that's a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if he's 1,000-yard rusher, so he can run. I don't know been much to say about it. I don't know him all that. But
Ramondre didn't do poo in college. He had 500 and 600 yards, almost 700 yards in his 2 years.
It's a crowded backfield. I mean, have you given up on Miles Sanders? I mean, are you?
I haven't 100%, but I don't know if Miles Sanders, I almost put as my buy low player because he is going to be so low because he scored no touchdowns.
Has he scored a touchdown in the NFL?
Miles Sanders?
Yeah.
Not in the last 400 and some odd days.
I mean,
while you tell us about your guys, I will pull up a stat. When did Miles Sanders last score a touchdown? Tell us about your play. I love your guy.
Because everybody else scores touchdowns. He's like the only one that doesn't. So my guy's kind of been injury riddled, and he's on the team that we're trying to avoid, and that's Curtis Samuel. So we all know the background. He played for Ron Rivera when they were in Carolina. He had a really good season when they were in Carolina. I think he had like 800 or 900 receiving yards, and then he had like the 200 or 300 rushing. So he's like that kind of combo player that we're seeing today in Cordero Patterson, Deebo Samuel. He can kind of do both roles. And if there's anybody on this team that can maybe find some success, maybe it is that gadget player. Maybe it is the guy that can get, some yards receiving, some yards rushing, find the end zone here and there. And I think on this team, the options are very limited, and I think this guy stands good as good a chance as anybody. But he's got to stay healthy, and it hasn't been very successful for him staying healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I'm 100% with you there. I was going to write it and think in the notes. I agree 100%. I think in there, he could end up being, with Logan Thomas coming back slowly maybe from the injury. We'll see when he jumps in, but he's going to be the guy right there in the middle of Carson Wentz's vision, that boom, 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 that he's going to dunk. Gadget player. I'm with you 100%. On the last note.
I was just kind of a gadget player that you don't use like a gadget player.
Who's that?
Antonio Gibson. Like, he is a legitimate.
Well, it's because they got J.D. McKissick, who is their gadget.
Legitimate gadget player. He played a receiver. He played receiver in college, and he can run the ball. I mean,
yeah,
you're not asking for a player.
That's why they got Brian Robinson.
I know.
They're going to gadget Gibson. They could gadget Gibson, and Robinson pounds it. On our last note for the AFC East, NFC East, which we spent too much time on because it's terrible.
I tell you last week this was going to happen.
Miles Sanders has only scored 9 touchdowns in his career, 3, 6, and 0. It's been 524 days since he last scored a touchdown, December 27th, 2020. Now let's go to the division with the greatest team in football right now, and that would be the AFC East, and we're talking about the Buffalo Bills. So they are the greatest team in football. I cannot deny it. That team is so good. We're going to talk about
favorite team. That's my
Josh. I knew it. I figured it once. I knew it couldn't be the Jets. I figured that's who it was. Josh Allen. We know is QB1. If you're in a super flex, we had this argument last week. He's your first quarterback off the board. I think we both agree. So we're going to talk about him ad nauseum the next couple months.
So I got real quick before we go on. Does he finish QB1 again? He's finished the last 2 years. It's QB1.
Odds say no.
So you're drafting him as a QB1. I don't know if you can really expect QB1. It's hard to redo that 3 years in a row.
I mean, there's what, him, Mahomes.
Oh, I'm still taking Josh Allen. I'm still taking Josh Allen.
Oh, I'm taking Josh Allen any day. But I mean, those top 4 guys, because there's legs involved in those guys that Lamar runs for those yards and throws for 3,500. He's QB1. Like he runs for 1,000 yards with all the running backs there. So I'm taking him QB1. Do I see it happening? Probably not statistically because it doesn't happen. But I think odds are better than not. I mean, he's still going to be a top 3, top 4, and I'll take a top 3 because I don't think his floor is as low as some of the other guys. Like we've seen some of Mahomes' game. Like Mahomes is always up here, but I think Mahomes' floor is just slightly lower than Allen.
Because he doesn't run.
And he doesn't have Tyreek.
He doesn't run. He doesn't score the rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's still QB1. I think it's. I think we agree this is a division of 2 levels. I mean, Buffalo is way up here. The question really is, has Miami gotten any better? How many games will they be behind Buffalo? Like I think we got Buffalo as the class of the AFC, slightly above the Chiefs probably because of some of the losses, and can they run? But Buffalo's defense is great. Buffalo's offense is great. Gabriel, why did I not? Okay, we'll talk about that. But
we're talking about that. Don't worry.
Yeah. How close do you think Buffalo and Miami are in real life?
Well, I think Miami's gotten better. I think they've definitely gotten better, but I guess they've gotten closer to Buffalo because I don't think Buffalo's really gotten any better than they have been the last few years. I think they've just been really, really good. So, I mean, I think Buffalo's, of course, they're going to stay the course. I don't know how to feel about Miami. It's just so tough. I don't think.
Here's for it. Okay, I got you. You're on DraftKings Daily Fantasy, and you're doing a stack. You've got a stack.
I'm stacking Buffalo all day. I'm not stacking Miami. I'm scared. I don't know what to think.
I think it's closer than if you look at it. I mean, because Buffalo, you're going to stack Allen, Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox, and Singletary.
Yeah,
Miami,
either one of them.
Yeah, but Miami has the same problem at running back. Miami, you're gonna stack Tua, so that gives Allen the win. Yeah, I'm probably Tyreek and Waddle. It depends if it's how the PPR falls.
I don't even think this is an argument because
I think it's gonna be closer than you think.
Homer is nowhere near the level of Josh Allen.
Oh no.
So therefore, in turn, the argument Josh Allen's going to produce with these receivers a whole lot because he already does it because they throw the ball, they throw the rock. The offense is based around the throw or the pass.
I got to figure out what wager I can put on Tua with this as we go farther because if you look at their stats, Allen and Tua back to back, side by side. Statistically, you can't. Stats don't. They're here to exist. We look at stats. They in their young career are almost identical. So if he doesn't do this year, I've already said he's done. But player to own other than Josh Allen. Since I wrote that in there, you didn't write anybody. Is there somebody that you think is in that? Like my guy I can hit in is a guy that actually I was waning on, and the farther I get, the higher I get on him, and that was Jalen Waddle. Waddle had that just blow up of a rookie year, knocking out our boy Bolden's rookie record for receptions in actually less games because he was injured. So everybody's like, it's a 17-game season. Well, he played less because basically Tua had no one to throw to. Because I think if Tyreek Hill hadn't come to the team this year, Waddle was going to see a corner and a safety. He was going to be covered up like no tomorrow. But bringing Tyreek Hill, I think he'll stay the course. He won't catch that many balls. But throwing a couple touchdowns and you counterbalance that because the people are going to look at Tyreek because he's so fast. They're not going to double Waddle. And then Gesicki is basically a receiver.
You said Tyreek's not going to catch a lot of balls. Is that what you said?
No, I said he's going to take it. He's going to take the pressure off of Waddle.
Oh.
Hopefully, I didn't say that. If I said that, no. Tyreek's going to catch. Neither of those guys. I said Waddle will catch less. Neither of those guys are going to catch what Waddle caught last year. It's going to split the pie. They're going to pass more. They're going to run a ton.
So if they're going to run a ton, and they're going to pass more. Like, what do you think this offense? I mean, is this? So you're telling me this is like a number one offense in the league? Is that what you're telling me?
No, maybe. I hope. I don't know. I like this is that thing that I think I mentioned. I made my kids listen to the episode called what did I call it? Like Adam's Dolphin Love a little while back. I don't know what to expect right now. Hope springs eternal with the way they are set up and the coaching they have. They look like San Francisco light, and San Francisco had Jimmy Garoppolo and they put up decent stats for two. I mean that for that stretch, Ayuk and Ayuk and Kittle and home slice. Oh, the guy Debo.
But if you look at the only person that you could really play in that offense was Debo. Of course, Kittle was hurt a lot, and then Kittle is so 30-point or 3-point. It is insane.
He's 30-point or injured.
yeah. So that offense was only one player. That's it. The only other than the running game and Elijah Mitchell. But that Jimmy Garoppolo 49ers-led offense was only fantasy relevant for one receiver. And here we go into Miami, and Waddle's supposed to be a wide receiver one. Hill's supposed to be a wide receiver one. Evidently, Tua is supposed to be like a QB one. And then Gesicki's supposed to be like a top 10 tight end. I just don't see how all this can come to fruition. I just don't. I think
I know you have the hate.
I don't have the hate.
For Tua. You're not a Tua guy.
I think there'll be a good NFL team, but we don't play in the NFL. We play fantasy, and I don't think this offense is going to be able to make this a fantasy fun team. I think there's a lot of frustration. I like Waddle, but back to Waddle. I like Waddle. He played well, but he's
not going to return last year.
If he doesn't if you're drafting him for what he did last year and he's not going to return that, what are we doing, right? Same way with Tyreek Hill. I don't think Tyreek Hill ever has the ceiling of top 5 wide receiver ever again. Zero.
I think it's going to be spread. We're even forgetting Cedric Wilson, who's before they got Hill, I was like, Wilson's a great signing.
And you're paying Tyreek Hill to be the top 5 option, and I don't think you're going to get that.
But here's the interesting question. So Waddle's number. I think Waddle would be an interesting buy in dynasty. He's their long-term receiver. Hill is 3-4 years. So I think he'd be an interesting buy in dynasty if this experiment works this year. So you're going to buy him a little lower than usual right now. Is of the players on that team, if you had to own one player on that offense, so we're looking at Tua, name a running back, Tyreek, Waddle, Wilson, Gesicki, which guy would you own? You had to have one guy.
It would probably be Waddle on that team. I think his I don't want to say his style of play works with Tua, but we know it works with Tua because it worked last year.
I think Tua's going to see the big lights with Hill. I think you go back to the well, and that's why I think Waddle's the player to own in the division.
Yeah, but you go back to that.
Tua doesn't care how much you're getting paid.
You go back to that well when you don't have a bigger well sitting right next to you, and Tyreek Hill is a very big well, and you play Tyreek.
They had Devontae Parker last year. Come on.
Yeah, I get it. I just completely understand. But when
Speaking of players to avoid,
I'm about to get to it. Tyreek Hill is my player to avoid because when Tua drops back and he's like, "Ooh, I got Jalen Waddle open, but I also got Jalen Waddle's wide open, but I got Tyreek Hill over here who may get open in a split second. So am I going to steer away from Waddle and hit Tyreek Hill deep, or am I just going to play it safe and just throw it to Waddle?" I think it's going to go back and forth all year. And let's be real, Tyreek Hill got a lot of play or a lot of touchdowns because Patrick Mahomes just runs around the backfield and slings it halfway across the field. Tua's not doing that.
So I hope not. I hope so. I don't know.
But I don't think Tua can. I don't think Tua has that on. I like Tua's. I'm not.
That was my question I was going to pose as we're looking at this. I'm almost thinking the safer bet of all these guys, because we don't know where the running backs are going to fall, which I'll talk about in a moment, where Hill's going to fall, where Waddle's going to fall, where Wilson or Gesicki, is Tua the safer bet, because you can draft him as a mid to late QB2 with mid to late QB1 upside if he hits these weapons, and if all in a perfect world bubble there, he could be QB7. In a real world bubble, QB14, 15 with what he's doing here if he runs a little bit. Basically what QB8 through QB22, they're separated by 50 points in the year, and that's 4 points a week.
Yeah,
so it's not a big scale there. I think he's the safest of all of them to have because.
I mean, maybe like I was
Yeah,
like, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be bad. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be great. I'm just sketchy at the moment. There's a lot of fantasy value there, but will it be able to
I hope so.
be able to follow?
Players to avoid is mine. The Miami backfield, whichever one you draft is going to be the wrong one. Welcome to San Francisco. Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert again, Sony Michel, Myles Gaskin, you're gone. Salvon Ahmed, you're gone. So this is the three-headed monster. They have a rookie White who they'll probably practice squad. That the way San Francisco works, White could be the number one quarterback. He's out of South Carolina. He could be the number one running back by the end of the year. But Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Sony Michel. Sony Michel, they were after before they signed Chase Edmonds. There'd been talk with him, and then Mostert snuck in there. He knows McDaniel's system, but is he going to be healthy? There are three guys there. You draft one, it's going to be the other two. I have some of the guys from before, not like I can't get Chase Edmonds to save my soul. I mean, I got some Mostert just because he was on my team from 49ers, but I don't want to touch this backfield with a 10-foot pole. I think as a whole, they're going to be solid for NFL. Like you said, a real world NFL team. You got a scat back out of Chase Edmonds. He's not going between the tackles. Raheem Mostert will give us 3 good games, and Sony Michel will then take over and be the bruiser. I don't want him.
Honestly, the only one that I would want is Sony Michel, just because I know Sony Michel can do it. That's it. I'm going to stay away from it. I mean, like I said, I got Sony Michel somewhere. I don't got any of the other ones. I'm not trying to get any of the other ones. I think it's a waste of time. Like I said, because you don't know what you're going to get. But like, I think the safest bet, honestly, is Sony Michel, and that's awful. I'm not going to say awful. Like great.
I just think they're going to be the way they're going to create it. They're going to be decent. There's a Quandre White, what's his name? They'll be decent, a decent backfield for real life.
Yeah, just like that whole team. It'd be a good real life NFL team, but I don't think it's going to be a good fantasy team.
Which is great. I'll take a real life team. It's a whole standard argument. If you're a big fan, do you?
If you're a fan of the team, of course you want the real life NFL team because you're not.
They don't make me any money. If they win, I lose money because I buy T-shirts. But like, as I'm wearing my Dolphin shirt.
Like I could really care less because I'm not a fan of any particular team, so I don't care about wins and losses anymore. Honestly.
Okay, so we now have the buy low player, and ironically, our buy low players are on the same team. My player, I think, has dropped like a rock because of Breece Hall being drafted. So I'm looking at my boy Michael Carter. He came on towards the end there in his rookie year. He is pegged the scat back, your traditional scat back. He's going to get catches. He did the same thing with Williams in North Carolina. I think he's going to do the same thing here in New York. I don't trust Zach Wilson. I don't trust Zach Wilson's arm. So maybe the Jets will go, oopsie, they like him, but we have 2 really good running backs. They're not going to throw Michael Carter on the scrap heap. They're gonna play him, and he'll be more valuable in straight up PPR leagues. But I think he's fallen so low that, I mean, he's not free, but he's pretty low. I'm gonna grab him if I can in many leagues. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, if you can get him cheap, I mean, I guess he's going but it was kind of like when Zach Wilson was in there, the running backs weren't getting thrown the ball a lot. But when that white character was in there, I mean, Carter was getting catches all over the place. I guess it's just the style of offense. Zach Wilson has a big arm, big cannon, and he likes to get it to the outside, throw to the receivers, maybe. But I mean, I think Breece Hall coming in just like it destroys that. Breece Hall is the 3-down back. I mean, Carter is going to get maybe 5-6 carries a game, maybe, and then maybe get 3 or 4 catches. I mean, he might have a good game here and there. It's gonna be tough for him though.
Yep. Yeah, who's your guy?
So my guy, I don't think it's a big surprise. Honestly, this is the guy who I wanted to put in the very first category and guys you want on your team. I mean, he's a 23-year-old wide receiver. All this kid does is score touchdowns as the third and fourth.
I was thinking Corey. Okay, I'm with you 100%.
Oh my God, he was giving me a face like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I love this guy.
So this guy's been like the third or fourth wide receiver, and all he does is score touchdowns. I mean, so he's got a lot of touchdowns. And now coming into this season, and we're talking about Gabriel Davis, of course. So now coming into the season, he is the legit number 2 wide receiver. He doesn't have to worry about Manuel Sanders. Doesn't have to. What's the other guy's name? Cole Beasley.
Cole Beasley.
Doesn't have to worry about Cole Beasley.
That was always a joke.
Doesn't really have to worry about anybody. Him and Stephon Diggs are the clear 1 and 2. He's only 23 years old, and everybody can remember what he did to the Chiefs in that playoff game. He was.
And before you go farther, let it be noted that was the week that JJ Wang hyped up Davis. I think I was texting you that whole game.
I called. Yeah, I called that right before the game started. We recorded right before the game started, and I was like, my guy's Gabriel Davis. And he went out there and made me look like a genius. Therefore, in turn, Gabriel Davis always has a place in my heart, and I will always push this guy to the moon. So my guy to own is my guy to own. We got to buy low, because you better buy him now, because it's not going to be.
He's getting marked. I got him as a throw-in a few weeks ago.
Yeah, because Buffalo loves to pass the ball, and now there's legit 2 options. I don't know what else to say. I think as a 23-year-old wide receiver, he's gotten better both years. He scores touchdowns. Dude, watch out.
Yeah, you're getting no arguments. They brought in Jamison Crowder to be Cole Beasley. You got the rookie Shakir. You got Isaiah McKenzie. He's pretty much a special teamer or a smaller. As long as Shakir is nothing, that's my fear. I'm a Gabriel Davis owner and lover, and I'm hoping that Shakir is just go. I might drop him in a league just to get rid of that hex on my team.
Shakir could be. I mean, he doesn't have to go. I mean,
he can stick around for 3 years when
you just can't throw to Diggs and Davis the whole time. They gotta have other options, but I mean, I think both of them. Of course, Diggs is going to get over 100 targets. I think, but I don't think Davis really needs that many targets to perform. I think he's more along the molds of like an AJ Brown type to perform, like big yard numbers and a lot of touchdowns with few catches.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. You're not. I mean, his numbers have nowhere to go but up. But when he plays, oh goodness gracious. Okay, we've been talking rookies for a while, so let's get this one. I am shocked because I put my guy in only because I thought you were going to say someone else. So I think the rookie to own in this division. Oh yeah, duh. I think they're both on the same team. I'm zagging right now. I totally forgot about your guy. I put in James Cook because I was like, oh, I'll just throw in a rookie I like. I don't think I think he's part of a giant mess of running backs in a team that doesn't run. Garrett Wilson is who I'll put in there. As you all have heard me, I'm not a big fan of Jets. Not a big fan of Jets receivers, but talent is talent, and talent wins out. I think. He's gonna be part of a good tandem for Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, I think, will be in the Tua boat in a few years. Put up or shut up. Especially because they're putting a lot of pieces around him. Great coaching. They got one of the top lines, and if you can't throw it to Garrett Wilson, and I just lost the other guy's name.
Corey Davis.
No, not Corey Davis. The rookie from last year.
Elijah Moore.
Thank you. If you can't throw it to those,
up later too.
Okay, we'll talk about him later. But then you stink. Oh, and another guy who I think is a blocking guy. But yeah, I think I'm switching to Garrett Wilson. Talent. Tell about your guy. I think you're in the sort of the same boat.
I was hoping you were going to stick with Cook because they didn't bring Cook in to run the ball. They brought Cook in to catch passes.
Yeah, he's Michael Carter, right?
That's what Cook does is catch passes. So in that offense, you want parts of the passing game, not the running game. And that's what Cook can bring you, plus a little extra in the running game. So, yeah, I like Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's okay. Zach Wilson likes to sling the ball down the field. Garrett Wilson likes to run down the field really fast. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I feel like it could work. And then when he's not open, I mean, he's got, of course, you can go Elijah Moore underneath. But, yeah, I don't mind that. And I'm going to stick with the same team. And Breece Hall, I think this is an easy one. I think he's going to get the ball a lot. He'll score a lot of touchdowns. And I think he's going to be challenging for an RB1, mid RB1 this year. He might get it. He might not, depending on how good the team is. I don't think
line's so good. It's easy.
But the line has gotten better. But you don't need to be a great team to have a great running game. You can just run the ball. And there's been cases we can go back and look at it forever. But I think Breece Hall is the guy there, though.
No, Breece Hall, meet Steven Jackson. Okay, real quickly, our deep sleepers. You have the first thing I don't agree with. I had to move on from him, so I'll do mine really quickly because it's the same as I said before. My deep sleeper is the Miami running back backfield. You pick the right guy, it's a deep sleeper. Somebody on that team is going to Elijah Moore you. If you look at the 49ers, they've had 3 different guys in 3 different years be number 1 running back. If you pull the right name out of the hat, boom, you'll be set. Tell us about your guy.
So I think my guy's pretty deep.
Your guy's I can't see him.
So, in college is 3 years in college. Of course, he's a tight end. 3 years in college, it's 13 catches. And then I think the last year he really, really jumped up at a grade with 26 catches. No, I'm just kidding. That's not a lot, I know. But it's Jeremy Ruckert for Ohio State. So he's 6'5", 250. So he's a big dude. Ohio State doesn't throw the ball to the tight end a lot. So it only takes like a minute to watch all of his highlights. And he makes a couple pretty good one-handed catches that kind of make you fall in love with the guy. But I know I kind of make fun of this with a lot of other running backs, but what's the best way to get on the field as a tight end? Be a blocker, right? Evidently, this guy is a legitimate blocker, right? So we're talking along the line. I don't want to talk along the line of George Kittle, right? George Kittle, Rob Gronkowski, they're great blockers. That's how they get on the field. And then when they get on the field, they find out that these guys can actually catch the ball as well. And then that's when they turn into these great receivers. I think Jeremy Ruckert has that potential. He's fast, he's big, he can catch, and he can block, and he's going to be wide open in the middle of the field. I mean, so I think there's potential there.
I told you it's the only one I disagree with. He is the second coming of Drew Sample. Drew Sample has almost identical stats in college, 5'9", 725 receptions. Drew Sample has arguably the best offense, second or third best offense in the league, and the Bengals, and can't do anything. I don't see a guy on a much worse offense. I drafted him, but then I was like, dude, this dude's going to be a stud blocker. But there's lots of great stud blocker tight ends that don't catch anything.
But you can also go back into college stats and find stats that compare negatively or positively to anybody in the NFL. It's just anything else. You can make arguments for both sides.
I mean, that was Sample's college stats.
Yeah, I know.
They're identical in college.
I could probably go back and find a tight end in college that didn't have stats that were as good as Jeremy Ruckert that probably turned into be a good tight end. So, I mean, just looking at stats, looking at stats is fun because it's a good way to start comparing, but it's probably the least effective way to project players in the NFL just by going by comparing simple stats like that. But like I say, he's a deep sleeper. Who knows? I think that he doesn't. I don't think he has a lot of people to beat out. I mean, you got CJ Uzomah to beat out, Tyler Conklin. I mean, those guys are
crowded, crappy field. I mean, there is one guy who was pretty good that had less receptions than him. Antonio Gates.
Yeah, so
he had 0.
Yeah, so I can spot. So I mean, Ruckert was a better college player than Antonio Gates, right? So, I mean, you can do this all day long with players. I mean, I could probably find a stat that says Jamar Chase wasn't as good as he was in college. I probably could find some kind of stat. I don't know if I really can, but I can probably find some stat out there that argues that. But, the deep sleepers, you got 30-man rosters. I mean, what's it hurt putting this guy on your roster? You never know.
Well, yep. So that's our AFC NFC East 30-hour marathon.
That was a marathon.
That was a marathon for some dumpster fires. I mean, there's basically two of these teams will make the playoffs. We don't know who in the East. It's Dallas or Philadelphia. Probably the Giants just to mess us up. And then Buffalo's in. Probably the stinking. So we didn't talk about the Patriots at all. How about that?
That is true.
That is interesting.
Mac Jones, the best quarterback to ever come out of Alabama. What's that say? There we got our Patriot talk. Just remember
next year.
Just remember that next year when Bryce Young's coming out of Alabama.
And Tua is a top 6.
Mac Jones is literally the best quarterback to play in the NFL to come out of Alabama.
I don't know about that. But anyway, some exciting news. The Courier Nation is growing through just
thanks to you, by the way,
thanks to your connection. Through a mutual connection, we are taking into the fold the Skull King NFL and fantasy football community. So welcome, Skull King fantasy community. We are the Fantasy Couriers. We posted on the page. We'll be sort of meshing. We'll be using Facebook pretty much as our main medium. That's where Skull King was located. So they gave us leadership and ownership of the group. Hopefully you all stick with us. We want to hear from you guys. Any questions, anything you want us to talk about? We're here for the people. If nothing else, we're here for the people. And we popped this on the site. This is our first podcast on that site as well. So you got a lot of us talking, and yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. This is a fun ride. We're just going to say what we think and have some fun here. So give us some wisdom to crash us out of here, JJ.
Yeah, so this goes to all the new people over there at Skull King. Jump on board with the Couriers, man. It's kind of be like Gabriel Davis. I mean, you can buy into us now while we're low, and there's not a lot of people listening, because here in a few months, I mean, we might be untouchable. You might not be able to buy in at that point. So buy in now while the stakes are low, make you a millionaire. And as always, trust yourself and trust the process.